Mr. Liz CEO of PMAX. And let's welcome to our distinguished panelists, Ms. Linda, General Manager of Paul Shore Skincare, Mr. Levan, the Managing Director of Actima, Mr. Yang Nanyang, Head of Law Solution Architect Law, Ms. Mai Lung, Media and Marketing Operations Director, Century Pacific Vietnam Beverages.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. So here today we are in a panel discussion about first party data activation, blueprint. And I think it's very difficult for us to talk about blueprint with just talk. So our panel decided to use a slide, a framework, as a framing so that later on we can base our conversation on. So please put on the slide. Basically, we've been talking a lot about first party data, and we've been discussing in our group that actually we've been talking about first party data for a few years now. It has always been challenging. And we've taken the liberty of framing it a bit. So we frame it a bit as in terms of, instead of first party data, it is about how do we create a customer advantage flywheel. Because we collect first-party data, the customer data, and then try to make it a business advantage for our business, right? So, very quick on the flywheel that we have. It's all start with trust. You have to create trust so that the customers and the users agree to give you the permission to share the data with you. And then you can collect them into memory, which is here you collect the data, store the data, map the identity, behaviors, and transaction history. Then it must help you to make decisions, business decisions. Otherwise, just collecting the data doesn't create any advantage, right? And after you decide, the challenge here is how do you activate? How do you use the data and make it useful? And after activation, it must drive growth for the business. And if the business grows, you have a chance to interact with more customers, have a chance to collect more data, and the flywheel will fly. Okay? So that is the framing that our panel agree on, and we are going to frame our discussion based on this one. So the first question to start is that first party data collecting is just one part. Activating is another challenge, right? It has always been challenging. So could you please give some example, case studies based on your experience, what worked, and how does it help your business, please?
Okay, good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's sessions. My name is Linda, I am the General Manager of Polyhouse Vietnam. So actually we have a very interesting conversations back then in the speaker room before this panel to discuss about the first party data, and I think majority of the panelists here we agree that having and collecting first party data is phenomenal. However, the issue is more on how we can use that, how we can leverage the first party data. And if we can see having first party data is really, is it a cost center? Is it like a cost consuming piece? Or is it a growth revenue engines? So for example, like for my company, Polar Choice, we are a B2C first brand from the US. And if you visit polytrust.com, so the first thing that you will see is actually a pop-up. And in the pop-up, even before we asking on consumer email, we'll start asking a quiz. What is your main skin concern? There is 3 options: oily acne skin. Any of you in this room will have oily acne skin, do you think? Raise your hand, please. Okay. And then the second option is actually the anti-aging. And the third one is sensitivities. So that 3 options actually lead to 3 different flow in our welcoming journey to the consumer. The one who choose eye acne, they will have different welcoming messages from the one who choose anti-aging. And thanks to that, the recommendations are different, the product features are different, even the tone in our messages are different. And because of that segmented welcoming journey, so it helps us to looking at one of the key metrics, which is the repurchase rate after 90 days. And we are seeing a significantly higher rate between that controlled and uncontrolled group, between the segmented and unsegmented journey during the welcoming phase. So actually recently we have been start looking at the number of entries that we have in our data collection. Instead, we ask ourselves a question: does this data really create any decision that impact on revenue? And for us in this case, that is the repurchase rate. And that is the moment where we can see this data collection in terms of first-party data is not only a cost center, it is actually a growth engine.
Yeah, I want to echo Ms. Lynn's point in saying that really for first-party data to help you grow is really, you need 2 parts of the point. First one is really collecting activity, and most people are only focused on the first part, and they forgot about the second part. Within Zalo, we have successful clients focusing on both, and the important part is that they skip the part of just collecting phone numbers and the lead form. Now they're moving and brief to us that now we don't no longer want just those pieces of data. We really want to collect those touch points where we can interact 2 ways with the audience. And that's where they come to us in the briefing about follower for Zalo official account. And from that, instead of for those education instead of collecting phone number that never got reached, they now be able to qualify the reach and increase those qualified reach by 4 times. So you can see that the important here is really focusing on those touch points rather than just those figures, numbers, name and phone numbers.
Allow me to add more perspective on that, and I have the privilege to move from the solution side with admin to brand side as a principal. So to me, it was a mind-changing moment when I reframed objectives from measuring like volume of data into how can I make better decisions in business. And actually, as a principal, we have one philosophy named success, which also means customer-centric. And with that, the Japanese living people means that they have to look at people as a holistic view, what is their needs, the moment to engage with them, as their aspiration. And with that, on the having proper data, we have to understand. So with the first-party data, needs to help you to answer 3 questions. Number 1, who are you trying to identify? Number 2, what are their needs? And number 3, how can you serve them better? So let me give you one example. So we have a product, Aquafina Soda. And through data, we found out that one of our loyal group was the expert who lived in Blaisdell County. And with that, it's like all about action, how to serve them better with like personalized treatment. And I think that's the true meaningful growth value that we found in that practices.
Thank you. Thanks for the example and case studies that you've done. Now, many organizations have successfully collected data, but really struggle when trying to operationalize it, use it to good means. Why is that a problem? Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I would like to share my insight on that. So collecting of data is actually a technology technology problems, right? But operationalizing is actually a workflow problems, I see much of the scenarios like you have your CRM, you have your ERP, you have your marketing platforms, data, and you also have your physical grade, experience and your expertise, right? So these are the data that actually not sometimes linked together. When it's not linked and it just becomes a slice of data existing in different departments, there are discussions, but it's not connected. So I would like to use one example to share with you. So it is essential for us, right, to hear the voice of the customers, right? So the earlier, the faster you hear about that, right, then you are able to iterate, improve your services and products, right? So often the time, the traditional way would be, right, I would like to put it in the more physical retail store perspective, right? When you have your staff hearing the complaints from the customers, and then the staff actually talk to the supervisor writes some message in other groups, right? Put some pictures, and someone from the marketing team or from different teams happen to see it and log records in their spreadsheets, right? And the spreadsheet goes to their monthly review, right? So you see here, like there's so much disconnections in terms of data passing, right? And by the time you reach to the person that make the decision, make the execution to improve, it's been too late, right? So that kind of speed is not that we want to have, right? And on the other hand, right, for example, we have some kind of new initiative that we want to drive down, right? We have policies from the HQ, the headquarters. So you want to push down to different stores to ensure, to ensure that it meets the it meets the requirements. So you just disseminate your SOPs, right? Documents to the group chats. But it's very hard for you to enforce that SOPs, right? So you don't have the good workflows to govern that. So in here, what you see here is disconnected workflows and also scattered data. And what we see here is also the disaligned communications from the HQ and also the stores, right, in terms of operations. So these are the blockers we see, right, why our organizers or enterprises actually feel to operationalize the data. Yeah.
So you're talking about the workflow. I'm observing that there are also the problem with the mindset as well. Because I think most of marketers, we overheard a lot about attention economy, right? It's all about pushing message out, pushing voucher out, and we forgot about the other inflow of receiving feedback. So that's why marketers, we couldn't operationalize the first party data because when you're only pushing out, you kind of like doesn't have the feedback loop from the consumer, from the user. So that's why I think now that a shift from attention economy into what we call consent economy, and the consent is consent to be engaged, consent to be interact with your customer, so that later on you have the full feedback loop to adjust your workflows, adjust your materials, and having a better connection with your customer.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned about consent, especially now that we have the personal data protection law, very strict and very fast. So, how, from the point of view of the brand, how do you solve that problem? How do you make the customer feel comfortable and opt in into sharing the data with you?
That is a very interesting question. So I think first of all, law is law, right? We just cannot like recheck and try to avoid the law. And for politicians, I think we are lucky because the DNA of the brand is actually transparency. So we have been super transparent with the client even well before the personal data protection law exists. So, for example, in our pop-up, you can see the consent form in which is declared clearly that by providing my email address and all the submitting to this consent form. So I agree to receive all of the communications and targeted marketing from politicians. And then, and also we have an option for the customer to unsubscribe at any time. So I think that is a way that we show our transparency to the customer. So the question is this really costly to do so, and does it impact the data collection? I think in short term, that is a yes. However, if you're looking at a long-term perspective, right? If you're sitting like in a pile of data, however you cannot use it, and then you know that it is illegal to use your data, so it is not safety for the business at all. And for us to run a healthy and sustainable business, so I think we prefer to sitting and having a limited number of data. However, we know that the customer who provide those data to us, they know what brands that they are talking to, they know what kind of skin concern that they have been sharing, and they feel relevant when we send them any emails, any messages that is relevant for them, and it helps us to actually improve the conversion rate. So I think strategically we should do that in order to both protecting our business and also making the customer having a higher chance to be more committed to us.
Thank you. So now that you successfully collected the data and you have reviewed the customer profile, the identity graph, now you think about activating the data. But in Vietnam, the media is dominated by the platforms, right? And who want to protect their data. So how do you do it in Vietnam context? Mr. B.
So the reality is really harsh, you know already, right? All the platforms try to protect the data, no, nothing's coming out. Like for marketplace, you only see the volume of sales, you don't know who you're selling it to. We often say that you make the sale, but you don't have the customer. Or in Vietnamese, bạn bán được hàng nhưng bạn không có khách hàng. And then the next campaign, you just start again. And all platforms like that. So I think when we talk to our successful clients, for example, like Long Châu and Techmachine and stuff like that, they are quite smart. I think a few years ago, you know, there's media attribution methodology, own, earn, share, and pay. Actually, Long Châu is doing the same. They evaluate all their own channels first, from their offline store, from their packaging, from their website, from the official account certainly. But then they pick the channel that having the highest interactive rates, and they say that wow, there's the place where I can interact with our customer and then provide more information, more voucher. And then they do it on the traffic, building, nurturing their community up there. I think now Long Châu have around like 18 to 20 million followers in their Zalo official account. And they say that, well, it's costly at the beginning, but for the long term, that channel becomes the most cost effective and the highest open rate channel for them, and they continue to invest with us. So I think having one channel that you gain the consent from the user to interact is a very key.
Thank you. It's great to hear from Zalo about Zalo OA solution for activation. And so activating the data, normally, especially for advertising, you have to upload the data into the platforms like Meta, TikTok, and Google. And it's like feeding back the data to platforms. How do you try to protect your customer relationship while still be able to activate the data?
Wow. Actually, every time we run a campaign on the platform, we need to ask ourselves several questions. Are we running this campaign for the platform? Or are we running this campaign for ourselves? I mean, if you just put on all of the effort in order to drive traffic to the platform, and then you can have a certain GMV, after the campaign, everyone will be super happy, the team, they will achieve the target, but after all, there's no data record in our ecosystem. So that is actually the things that we do for the platform, not for the brands. So at our teams, we are putting what we call the own conversion rate, in which we measure the conversion rate of the customer who actually purchased from the platform, and we see after 30 days if they end up at our own email platform. For example, an email registration on our website, or a follower from our Zalo OA account, like a registration signing up for our loyalty program. So we want looking at those kind of KPI and index in order to see if we are able to recruit customers from the campaign on the platform to our own channel. And also there is a tactic that we are doing, but well, please do not share with the other platform. Do not share with TikTok and Shopee, otherwise they will kill us. So at College Choice, we are doing this small tactic. On every single box that we send out to the customer when we place an order from Marketplace, we put on a QR code, a small one. And that QR code linked to our website, the pop-up section. And we put on some incentive for the customer to scan that QR code, go to our website, signing up, putting an email, declaring their scheme concern and their latest purchase history. And from that moment, we are able to connect and engage with the customer on our direct conversations. So that's the way that we try to steal the customer data from the platform.
Yeah, so basically it's a collaboration and also fighting on the data itself, right? Yes, and yeah, it's a topic about AI, right? Of course, and how is it going to change the nature of first-party data collections and activation? Yeah.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'm actually coming to share that that the AI part in this activation of first-party data is basically it collects your data to your decisions. So it shortens the time and gets things done quickly. So just to give an example, right? So for the past decades, when we discuss about activation, we are talking about someone from a data team consolidating the data, right? And then generate the dashboards, and someone gets to interpret, and someone gets to make the decision, and someone gets to execute the task on the ground or in the actual scenes, right? So now, when it comes to the AI era, we don't have much layers in between, really, right? So from the data, straight away, you can have your activations, right? So the AI is not just create a dashboard for you, it also help you to interpret and also help you to give your insights and recommendations, what's going on and what to be done in the next phases, or increasingly actually do it for you, right? So that's what we see here, and also we see AI can then assign the tasks, notify the right people, right? It now actually changes from analysis to operators, right? That actually transform the way that we go to the markets, right? So just example, right? There's actually a real cases from our customers. There's a well-known FMCG brand in the beverage industries, and actually he has a difficult time to run the below the line. So they have 90% of the revenue coming from the physical purchase in the stores, right? So it's very hard for them to measure the ROIs when we carry out physical marketing campaigns, right? It takes time, it takes 3,000 people on the ground to collect the data and spread across 32 spreadsheets. So they need to take 3 things, collect the data, analyzing it. Right now, it's actually immediate. When you get the data, and now you have the AI to run for the insights, recommendations for the guests, and also the improvements to be made, so they can decide for their next iterations of marketing campaigns. And that translates to 3 to 5% of the cost saving in their marketing spending. And also, that spending saving actually translates to $800,000 to $1.5 million USD revenues. So there's huge savings, and it's something that the AI can help them to accelerate and achieve. So what we are saying is actually still the human make the decision, but the human make the decision straight away from the decision itself, not from the data, right? So that's how we see it transforming from the collection to the activations in a short period of time. And also essentially, the AI is coming not just to create a smarter dashboard, but a smarter decision that behind the dashboards. So that's sharing on this part.
Yeah, I think also thanks to AI, I think now we can do auto segmentation, meaning that through only a small subset of data before we couldn't define who they are, but now we can have a very close match and generate the segmentation almost real time. And also because of that as well, we can also generate and customize offer in real time as well. For example, in using the chatbot through the conversation, we can have continually discover their need, and from that, giving them the right offer at that real time instead of waiting for them to go through all the checklists and stuff like that. I think that's two very strong dimension of AI into activating the data.
Okay, so we talked about first-party data 5 or more years back, right? It's not that new, and we frame it as an advantage. So we try to achieve a customer advantage, which means that we must be better than our competitors in terms of processing, leveraging first-party data. So why start now? And then 5 years from now, right? The one who holds the advantage will have what? Is mine?
So my former boss, who is sitting right here, has a favorite quote from Warren Buffett, a very old quote that you only know who is really naked when the tide slows down. This implies business vulnerability and long-term impact, but without is also very true for data. I believe that the winners in the next 5 years with data is not the one who owns a large volume of data, but the one who can turn it into insights, into experiments. And with that, we don't just use data to validate what happened in the past, but also as a guideline for the future. There was interesting thoughts I would like to share with all of you that data needs to be a team sport. It needs to be aligned from cross-level in an organization, cross stakeholders, and between us as the brand owners with our platforms. And that's the only way for us to do it successfully.
Thank you. So assuming that you are sitting on the pipe data right now, right? And you just start. What should you do in the first 90 days to really start with the first party data, not just the buzzword data? Can you share as well?
So what I have just asked is exactly my assignment at the moment. It's really also a lesson learned for me. So I used to do blueprints and consult different businesses. Now it's my turn to try to really what to do with my plan. And I think it's very important that we shouldn't look at a fancy, perfect framework or dashboard or big KPI, but truly need to spend time with different stakeholders, spend time with the organization to understand what will be the very first pain point or business problem. And from there, asking yourself what can be solved with data and what will be the proof of data. And I would encourage all of you, regardless of your title or function, to really see what can be solved with data and we can start from there.
All right, yeah. So I would like to share that first of all, don't panic, don't be formal, right? Take a deep breath and look for the right high-value problems or the business scenario that you want to solve, right? And what are the criteria to select them? Actually, you can look for those that is very painful and those is really high frequency that coming up on a day-to-day basis, right? And try to connect that with the data, with the people, with the workflows, and ultimately the AIs in the pipelines, right? And I would say once you have 90 days to prove, right? And to make sure the data driving the workflows, not just the data that appears in the monthly reviews, right? So that can actually really prove something that it is actually helping the team, the organizations, and then naturally the organization will pull towards you, right? To do
My advice also, let's start small. Even though you have so much data, just start small. Try to identify your minimum viable audience and minimum viable data. The rest are meaningless. So find the audience that matter most to your business. That's the first step. And then find a subset of data that resonate the most with them. And then the third one is try to find those touch points that you can definitely interact with those critical audience. And from there, try to build the best offer. When you find that aha moment, then you can spread it out.
Yeah, maybe this is the last questions, right? So I think, well, my one little sharing with all of the CEO, CMO over there, because I was in your shoe, right? Please do not ask me for any more dashboard. No more dashboard. No more Power BI. That's enough. Because we don't need dashboard, right? We need data to drive decision. And we need that decision in order to generate revenue. Do you agree with me? Yeah. So, with your past data now, please define one of the most highly impact business issues that you are facing with. And then ask the team to find the data that correlate with that issue. You can run a pilot test in a control group, and with that result, then you can scale it up. So no more data collections, no more analysis, just go and let the data work for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my panelists. I think the key takeaway that all four panelists agree on is focus on the business questions. Let the data help you to drive business outcome. And finally, let the flywheel fly high. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our moderator and thank you to our wonderful panelists. And please remain on the stage to receive flowers and a token of appreciation from the representative of MMA.